Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It is week 5, believe it or not. Week 5 on the Time Machine build. And if I sound a little rough today, I apologize. I seem to have picked up a little bit of a bug over the weekend. Not the dreaded C word, but just your basic summer cold. So I'm going to try to keep the sniffling and hacking off camera, but I might sound a little rough. But this weekend, and this report is all about balls. Balls, my friend, balls. I had printed, I whipped up and designed and printed this ball last week, and all was good in the world. The gears fit in it just nicely, everything was working, and then Jeff Fink came along. Well, Jeff Fink is a friend of the show, and you've heard that name before. He is a 3D designer extraordinaire, and I've worked on many projects with Jeff and look forward to doing even more. Jeff took one mere glimpse at what I was doing and said, I fixed your problem for you, basically is what he said. He came up with, and I struggled all day, because I don't do this. This is not my forte. I struggled for a while to come up with this ball design. He basically sneezed one out in the time it would take me to tie my shoe, which says more about how long it takes me to tie my shoes than his 3D rendering ability. But he came up with a much smoother, what happens is this was done on Tinkercad, and Tinkercad has a limit to how smooth you can make things. So he went into, a grown-up piece of software, and he came back with this, which is beautiful. This is beautiful beyond words. Not only is the inside a little bit thinner than what I was coming up with, the outside has no facets on it. This is a file that I printed. I mean, I'm not going to give him all the credit. I printed the bloody thing, but he designed it. And he brought the cutoff up a little bit higher than I had. Mine was more in line with the two stems. He brought his up, which meant the stem area was more stable than mine was. I noticed that after it had cured for a bit that it was starting to go wonky, and I think that was because I was too delicate in that area. Anyway, neither here nor there. I took his design, printed out a version at 100% scale and one at 105% scale, just for belt and suspenders. I've got the printer running, I might as well. So I'm coming back to the 100% one because it seems to be the one that fits my brass rods that I've got, the brass tubing that I've got, more comfortably. So you take, this is the gear. Now I've seen better versions of this online, and I'll tell you that I've got a completely different motor coming from Amazon that's supposed to arrive tomorrow. So until I've given that one a fair shake, I am not going to be necessarily tied to this motor. I want to give the other one a shake. It's a lot bigger. I'll tell you that right now. I haven't even seen it, but going off the measurements on the screen, it is a lot bigger. So what this is a shaft with the gear on the top that goes down through there. Goes down through there, spins like a top. Now there is a sleeve, get that out of here. There is a brass sleeve that goes inside this hole that is designed to not only make sure that it fits nice and tight, but the inner shaft spins on this outer shaft, and that's where the friction is. The friction is not going to be against the resin, so the resin is not going to get torn up. See, that'll sit like that. It also lifts it up just a tiny bit inside the hole. That's where I'm running into my issues, is I have to lift it up slightly so that the two gears mesh like this as cleanly as they can. They go like that. So if that is what is going to go down the center hole. This is the outer shaft. It fits up like that. This sits like here and spins. It does this thing, which spins like that. That is the goal. I want to push this up. Push this up in the hole, thank you very much. And I want to run these little washers because the washers help with the spacing. They also help with the metal not rubbing against resin. Okay, that sits like that. And then the horizontal gear, which is this guy, this is where it attaches to the plate. That goes in like that, and this spins a whole lot truer now because of the way Jeff has designed this ball. And then it's got this lovely cap that goes on the top and where it goes up to the brake light. And if all works out well, I should be able to run the brake light wiring down inside this ball, maybe sneak it out the side here so that it doesn't touch that gear, and runs down the rest of the stack. But that's how this fits inside of here. Let me try to sneak the other. See, that gets a casing there, and I think I've got another piece here. Yes, that goes on the other side. That sneaks in that hole, and that fills out the bushing, and then this goes on the front of that. There we go. That is that motor. Now this will all be cut down, which makes it even easier. The height is completely wrong. Once I get the height of these rods adjusted, we have a turning gear. Okay, I'm cautiously optimistic. I gotta mount this motor to keep it immobilized. That's what the clamp is doing. It's going up to the joint where the ball is. I've got to secure this joint a lot more with strong epoxies, but it's going out and it's spinning the dish. I need to put the actual dish on there to test the weight, but we're getting what the bare bones of what it is I'm looking for. Okay, it's a little rough, but look at that. Now the motor is straining, but you'll remember that I had slowed everything down on the Arduino board. This is telling me now that I might, because that's a good slow speed there. That's telling me that I might want to jack the numbers up on the Arduino board to allow for the extra strain on the motor. And I'll tell you, I am holding the back up because nothing here has been epoxied in place or anything. I am holding at the very back of the wheel here. I've got my right hand on the extension of the axle rod coming out. But that's solving everything I wanted to solve. Alrighty, I'm back from lunch. Had to do a quick run to get something to eat and go to the hobby shop / RC place where I get my brass. And I'm just doing a bit of upgrading. These are my central shafts. This is the horizontal shaft. You'll notice it is a tube. I am upgrading to solid rod. I think that's going to be, even though it's just a fraction heavier, it's going to give me more stability. So I am, like I said, just swapping these things out. And then we'll go from there. I don't want to go too far down this road, even though it's working. I don't want to go too far down this road with this motor because my the other motor is coming tomorrow, and that's not too long of a time to wait. I know, even though it's not a race, I see both Wayne and Phil have gotten a little bit further along than me in most of their build. I have to think that a lot of my parts are ready to go. So as soon as I finish up the, get the one issue solved, I can slap the other parts together. I know it's not a race, but I feel like I'm falling behind, so I want to keep the momentum. But by the same token, if a better motor is only one day away, I'd be stupid not to wait and see if it's going to work first. I am solidifying, if that's the right word. I am cementing some aspects of the build that are going to be better in the long run. I feel that if I can get it to a point where a lot of it is done, with the exception of just swapping out a motor, then that's the good course to take. But it's not a case of the motors being the same size and one just being stronger. The other motor is much bigger. So this, what I've got cut out for it here, isn't going to work on the other motor. So the things I know that won't change are the lengths of the of these drivetrain shafts. So I can go ahead and get those cut and swapped out. Okay, I want you to hear a difference very carefully in here. I think I've tweaked the numbers to where I can hear a difference, which means I've got two different speeds going. That's on. That's faster. That's slower. That's the off position. That's slow. And that's fast. It's a very subtle difference. That's the off position. Slow and fast. This gives me tremendous hope. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. Still sound a little bit rough. The good news is I feel a little bit better. And I'm still waiting for the mail to come, because while I am 95% happy with this and I can go ahead and finish it, I would be a fool to not at least look at the motor that's coming in the mail, hopefully today, and see if it wouldn't work as well or better than the motor that I've got. I am, like I said, very happy with what is here. I'll go ahead and plug it in and hold this down and crank the... See, everything is working just fine. And there's the fast speed. There's the slow speed. Well, good news, bad news. Good news is the motor that I ordered came in. Bad news is it's too freaking huge. Look at this thing. It's huge. It didn't look that big on the internet. That's all I gotta say. And I thought I did the little chart that gave me the measurements. I thought I had got that. Maybe it's the old metric English thing again, but I mean, it's a beautiful motor. Moves nice and slow. It's quiet as all get out. You can't even hardly hear it. But there's no way in hell I can fit that inside that cabinet. It's a shame, because it is lovely and it would do everything I want it to do. But it is easily 3 times bigger than I can use. So we back up. We use what we have on hand. And I can start that with a clean conscience. Hey ho, friends and neighbors, it's Wednesday. We're going to do a full day's worth of work on this time machine today, because it comes to my attention that I'm falling a bit behind. I'm behind the times. Both Wayne and Phil seem to be miles ahead on their build, and that just means I need to step up my game. I'm new to this whole, working... group building type of thing, where you're not only building the same thing as somebody else, but you're building it at the same time. And I may not work as quickly as others, or quicker in some aspects, but I have really been fiddling with this gear system, and I think I've got it down, so I think it's been time well spent. I've got this thing going. I waited yesterday. I did lose a day yesterday because I was waiting all day for that motor to show up, only to have it come in about the size of a baby's arm and be way too big for my purposes. So I am committing myself to using the smaller motor, and I'm trying to figure the best way of getting everything geared. Now, overnight I did solidify this joint right here by packing this area full of the JB Weld 2-part putty. So this is nice and solid now. What I would like to do is probably put a stress test on the motor, hook the motor up, hook the board up, hook the dish up, get one last stress test on that at those speeds, see if those are going to be the final speeds that I'm going to want to use, and then put this whole thing aside and go back and now that once I get that speed set up, I can do the final programming on the Arduino board up in the console and close that up today. I think that's what I really want to do, is kind of get away from all of this and get back to the front console business. So let's get all the parts needed for hooking this up. We start with putting this on this base. Now I've got, let's see, I need to, since I'm not going to pull the whole McGill out of the other room, I'm going to go ahead and do that, which, because of this dent right here, I need to set it up on something. So we're going to set that up there. We're going to, I need to cut some new wires for this, bare some new wiring. The nice thing is, once this board goes in, and I do need to do a little bit of channeling here to make more room for that board. See where that black line is? I just need to dig a little bit of that out. Once this goes in like that, these two wires for the engine or for the motor will be right there. They're in the perfect spot for it. And then I get the motor isolated so that I can run the wiring for the earmuff cones and for the brake light. Yeah, let's do plug the soldering iron in. Well, no, I don't need the soldering iron. I just need the wire clippers so that I can, yeah, okay, I need this, because the last big thing to worry about back here is how to isolate this motor to keep it from spinning, and it's just going to be a matter of putting it between two blocks here, I think. So yeah, let's get this wired up and do one last testing on the speed. Okay, kids, are you ready to see this? It's Wednesday. This is the final test of the programming before I put it in the control board up front. But it's at a dead stop. There's the slow speed. Now this is an ugliness. I mean, as far as the edge of the dish, it's not as clean as I would like. That's the slow speed. That's the fast speed. It evens out the faster it goes. And the only bad thing really about it is that when it goes to a stop, it kind of jerks to a stop. I'm inching it backwards. That's the slow speed. And that's the stop. I mean, it just comes to a dead stop when it stops. And then the other way on the pot meter, slow and fast. And like I said, it just stalls out to a stop. Now that I know that that Arduino code is going to be the final code that I want to use for the speeds, I can put that in the board that's up front, and we could close up the front today, and that's my goal. So I'm going to move all of this off of the table for the time being, and then we will readdress what's going on with the front control console. Okay, I've cleaned up the desk a bit, brought over the parts that I'm going to be working on, got rid of the parts I won't be working on, so they won't be a distraction. And we're going to be working on this thing here, because all the cool kids seem to have that already closed up. And I want to go ahead and get mine closed up as well. So I'm going to remove all of this from the deck here and lay it out like a Thanksgiving turkey. And we're going to start soldering. Oh, before I do that, I need to flash the thumb drive circuit board here with the new program. So that's one thing I need to do before I attach this other side rails. I need to get the Arduino updated. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. This is the most difficult work I have done. The most meticulous. That was the word I was looking for. Meticulous work I have done. I have got my wiring coming in from this other. This is the output, basically. This is the input for the power, and this is the output. I've got 4 wires coming out of that. 2 to run the motor controller, and 1 positive for the cone lights, 1 positive for the brake light. So that's all going out to the side. Now I can push these together and close up this whole console. Yee! If you don't think I'm nervous, you're not paying attention. Okay, this is why you mock things up. I think I've learned a valuable lesson here, and not a minute too soon. I've got power going into it from here, power coming out, and I'm testing my lights back here. And this is the brake light. The brake light is on, comes on when everything is at a standstill, and goes off when you're activating the lever. Now, I activate the lever, the yellow lights come on here, the blinkies do their thing, the stoplight goes out. I am noticing the red light in the cone is running very, very dimly. And I'm wondering if there's some basic incompatibility with strip lighting. Now, I've run into that problem before on builds when I've tried to mix strip lights and LEDs with varying results, and I think I've run into that issue here again, that maybe Wayne wasn't thinking of including strip lights, and the voltage that, oh come on, the voltage going out to them isn't sufficient to run strip lights. Why are you fighting me? You know you're on camera, that's why you're fighting me. You were sitting completely still until I turned the bloody camera on. Okay, so that's how that looks. So, I think the lesson that I've learned, that it's not too late to change it, is I need to swap those strip lights out. Oh, just lay there. I need to swap these strip lights out for single LEDs and see if that fixes the problem. Alrighty, I have determined that I'm going to have to replace those red strip lights with red LEDs. I've had to do that kind of stuff before. It's a pain in the butt, but it's not unheard of. So here's our test. We've got, let's see if we can get the camera around here. I might have to pick the camera up, show you what we've got. Don't pay any attention to these red lights. Those are on the board itself. We won't be seeing those. What we've got is the key in the neutral position, and when it's in a neutral position, this brake light is on. We'll stand that up. The brake light is on and the dates are on. That happens all the time. Now when we move that, the brake light goes out, the cone light comes on, the front yellow lights come on, and we start seeing the blinking happening from the date lights. And as we increase that, all that does is change the speed of the date lights up here. Everything else stays the same, so that I know I've got continuity in my wiring from the front to the back. That was the important thing, that there was no kinks or breaks in that wiring. Now we're turned back off and the brake light comes on. So wonderful. Now that I know that those wires are all working, I can seal this connection together And while that's setting up and gluing and doing all that, I can remake the new cone lights, which I'm going to have to make out of SMLEDs, I think at this point, maybe 3 in each one. One at the tip pointing out, one pointing up, and one pointing forward, and one pointing up, something like that. One at 12 o'clock, one at 3 o'clock, and then one pointing out towards the dome. I think we should be able to run that many LEDs off of that the one line. I don't think that the number of them is going to be a problem. Okay, we're coming along now. We've got the central control. It's not closed up yet. I still have this panel at the bottom to put on there. What I want to do is glue both of these joints here. But before I do that, I need to make sure that it is straight up and down. That it is the front panel here is actually a bit of an angle, but what should be straight up and down are these 3 lights. So I am just gauging that. What I want to do is spread that a little bit apart, put some of the probably the 5-minute epoxy in there, and then push it back together, and that'll give me time to adjust the nature of it to make sure that it is in the right orientation. Then we can set that completely to the side, and I can go back to reworking the lights for the cones. So let's whip up some epoxy and do that. Okay, the epoxy is in and curing. I've also gone ahead and put this front brace in. No sense not doing that now. It's completely appropriate and will help the spacing of the 2 front rails. So we're going to move all of this off to the side, and I'm going to work on remaking the light boxes that are going to go inside the cones. I took a slight detour on my way to working on the red lights for the domes, as I went ahead and put in my own custom numbers. The decals are kind of iffy, and the numbers are kind of hard to read, but I went ahead and put in my own, probably the most important date in my life, but that's what I'll go ahead and do. And if you're going to try to steal my identity, fine. I've just given you my birthday. I hope you can do a better job with my identity than I can. But there. So now what I'm going to do is put a drop of clear epoxy over top of both of those, or all 3 of those, to kind of seal them in. And then I'll get on to working on the side domes. Alrighty, I have just put some clear epoxy over the top of those and let it fill in. Now, it's true that I might have some bubblage going on in there, but not so much that I'm going to lose too much sleep over it. Before I set this in place on the console, though, I want to paint the bulbs, tint those with the red, the green, and the yellow clear, just to enhance the color of what's going on behind those. So we're going to let that cure for a while, kind of keep it level, which means at this weird angle, since it's got a curve on the bottom side of it, I need to do something like that to keep it level. Yeah, okay. Now I can work on these cones, and I'm going to put 3 SMLEDs, chip-sized reds in here. Okay, I've just put up one of these LED towers. It's got 3 SMLEDs on here, but I think by the time you put the cap on it and then you put the top over that, I think that's going to give me a plenty good amount of light. And really, for about a fraction of the bulbs that were in the strip lighting, I think that's going to be fine. So I'll do another one of those. And actually, you know what? I think I might want to, if I could attach it to my old setup to see whether or not it would. Oh no, I'm sure it'll power it. I'm sure it will. Okay, here comes the happy news. We are powered up, and since we're powered up, that means we have the date lights on and we have the brake light on. When we shift into gear, the yellow lights come on up here, the date lights start their thing, and now the cone lights work. And it was only the difference between using LEDs and using strip lights. That was the only difference. Okay, so I have tinted these guys. I've got a coat of paint on them. I'll come back and put a couple more coats on them. Let that dry and then come back again. But that's all but ready for that to go on. So we're looking good. Things are starting to pick up speed. Greetings, everyone. It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. Yay! And work is continuing today on the time machine. Now, I still, even to my own self, I still sound a little froggy, but I am feeling much better. And I'm to the point where I'm no longer sneezing, but I have to blow my nose a lot. So I feel if I take any breaks, that's what I'm doing. Because it's just, you don't want to know. Here's where we're at. I need today to immobilize this motor. Because if I don't, it'll free spin, and I want to stabilize it so that all the spinning happens at the top. If I put a battery on this, you will see that see, it does do the spinning. It makes the shaft spin. Everybody's happy with that. But I need to freeze the motor in place. And I'm thinking the best way, or at least the first thing I'm going to try, we'll determine whether that's the best or not, but the first thing I'm going to try is some of the steel stick epoxy putty from JB Weld. What I like about this is it sets up rather quickly. It's what I used up here in this ball. Seems to have worked fine there. I can mold it around the areas I need to mold it. I am double checking to make sure that when I do that, I am leaving these holes free, because that's where wiring needs to come. Actually, I can get away with just getting everything through this wire, because that hole there, because that's where the side cones have to have their wiring come through there. So we're going to try it, and it's going to set up early enough that I think if it's not going to work, we'll find that out too, and we should be able to go to plan B if plan A doesn't work. So let's try this out, see how well she does, because the next step after that is to start wiring in the motor control board. So I'm just going to knead this up. What you do is you just slice it like it was cookie dough, and then you knead it, and then you knead it some more. Now I want to make sure that the flat sides of that motor are right and left. That will allow me to the flat sides of the motor will allow me to lay the flatness of the putty in there. Okay, I'm having one of those days where everything's just going wonderfully. I've got the epoxy in here packed and everything's good to go. I'm checking my polarity to make sure that the motor's turning the correct direction. I was thinking about that woke me from a sound sleep last night, and that is putting the top of this ball down. Because I was worried about sanding it and keeping, making it all nice and level and even and all that. I'm not going to hide this seam. I'm not even going to glue it down. I'm going to, because it's got this inner rim on here, it'll pop into place and hold down, but I'm going to leave that accessible, because if there's anything that can fail on this, it's going to be these gears, or anything that needs any sort of maintenance, adding more grease to it or anything like that. So I'm just going to leave this. I'm going to make it so that it's hinged. Obviously, the wiring that's going to come out the side is going to be tricky to keep that from going fragile or anything. But I think what I'm going to do is make this so that should I need to get into it, I can pop it back off. I think what I'm going to do is put a little bit of shrink tubing around the wiring here, just to act as a buffer, so that it, you know, if in case it rubs up against any of these gears, it won't cut the wiring or short anything out. And then once we get down to here, I'm going to run the wiring in a tube so that, again, it doesn't get bound up or doesn't want to get twisted up in this motor here. Okay, the monumental work is coming right, left, and center. Oh, I got these in the mail today. Excellent joiners. A little bit late for the party, but those will come in handy in the future. Always good to have stuff like that in your box of tricks, as it were, but a little bit late for this party. This one's going to have to do. We're coming to the monumental stuff, as I've said. It's coming right, left, and center, and the next thing to do is to put in the right cone, the right earmuff. It's got the right stuff, baby. I'm just putting it in like that. I'm going to tape down that wire from the back and make sure it stays out of the way. Once this is glued in or epoxied in, I will be able to move it as a piece, and then the next one I have to run a wire up to the ball up there, and I have to run a wire. It's going to have to come into here. So yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. It might even be time to paint all of this. Who knows? Let's just take it step by step and see how it goes. Yeah, I feel I need to document this just in case everything goes horribly, horribly wrong. I just did a quick electrical check. Everything is working. Happy, happy am I. I'm getting ready to close up this central stalk here. So what I need to do is put a bead of 1 minute epoxy around here. Flip it over, push it down inside there. And then the last thing to do is to clean up this rat's nest of wiring, and then stand the whole stock, this whole stock up. That is the next step. It's, like I said, picking up speed and going very quickly now. Okay, so got the 1 minute epoxy out. Broke the seal, so to speak. Do the twisty. Okay. Gotta try to do this on camera. Not very wise, I know. Don't want to get any of that on the motor like I just did. Sorry. Okay, sorry about the panic. What I was noticing is that there was a dribble of the epoxy that was hitting the shaft right where I had two parts that were spinning, or are supposed to spin. And if that part had, if the epoxy had hardened there, that shaft wouldn't spin. So that's kind of the whole reason why we're here today. So I needed to stop and clean that off and make sure that that resin did not get in there, or the epoxy did not get in there. Sorry. This is setting up. I will be able to tip the whole stack up here up on its top here pretty soon. I just need to insulate a few more wires, and then we'll be able to seal all that up. And like I said, this is where things start picking up speed, and what things that you once thought you'd never see connected have been connected. Alrighty, things have been going so excellently well today that I am loath to jinx it. But there's one more task I wish to complete today, and that is getting this stack epoxy down to the base. Everything is good. Everything is good, green, and go. When you hit the switch, I'm trying to find my key here. Hit the switch, the light comes on. This light is not on because it's not connected. It is the only thing that is not connected other than the dish not being in place, but everything is working. Yes, there are lots of cosmetic things that need to be done yet. One of the more important things is to get this plate put on. But the thing I want to do tonight, and then if there's time, would be to get these guys. See if I can get this base down and get it secured and nailed in place, then I could pull these frames into shape next to it. And that, setting up overnight, would be the best thing to happen and put us in a great place for tomorrow's work. So let me snap the switch off and unplug it. And now we are going to, yes, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to need to fill that in, so, because there's a gap around it. So let's do some gluing, and then we will do the epoxying. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. It is the last work day of week 5 of the time machine build, of the part of the Sprueverse challenge from my own corner of the world. I don't mind saying we're going to see a lot of neat stuff today. Where I need to start with, though, however, is I need to start with gluing these side rails to the cones. Now, the only way I could think to do this is to put some epoxy around here, push it onto it, because it's going to force the rails to be twisted to match the contours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block both of these, kind of like this, glue both of them at the same time, and then throw a honking big clamp over the whole thing while the epoxy sets up. And while that is setting up, I can start working on some more details for the top of this. My goal is to get everything not done today, but built today. If I can get all of this built, then that will leave next week, and maybe not even all of next week, but next week for touch-up painting and decaling, because there's still a significant amount of decaling that needs to be done to this piece of equipment, to the rails, to a lot of other pieces. But I think they're going to be their own animal. Now, the idea of this challenge was that we would build everything and then unveil them all at once. So what I'm going to do for my ending video is I may have a fleeting glimpse of just, pardon the Pink Floyd reference, that's just a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye of the final thing, but not go into all of the camera beauty shots and the loving detail of it until we can put all of our videos together, and then Phil can unveil them as part of his Sprueverse challenge. You will see the finished kit. You just won't see every loving bit of detail. So, goal for today: get everything on here that needs to go on here, because I got a blue million of these rivets to paint still. So that's going to be its own. That's going to be its own animal. So first things first, let's get these guys glued down, and then the next step after that would be to attach these to the outsides, and then the big frame goes around it, and then the wheel goes on, and then the chair goes in, and then the wheel goes on. Now, the wheel's done. All I got to do is attach it. Chair's done. All I got to do is move it in. There is a lot of touch-up painting that has to be done yet. Fully cognizant of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put these guys on, and then the sideballs. I need to figure out when is the best time to do the detail painting in here and the decaling, because I got to slide those gold leaf decals in there. So, enough blabbering, let's get on with it. I need to mix up a little bit of the epoxy. This is the clamp I'm using, by the way. Big old clamp. It's going to sit like this. It's going to rest on this tub. That's why the tub's back here. And then it's going to hold everything in place. Okay, because I am probably as astounded as you are right now. I wanted to show what that looks like with the big old honking clamp on it, holding everything square and level and true and yay and happy and yum. Okay, we're going to let that sit for at least an hour while we go on to the next step, even though that's 5-minute epoxy, because of the strain that it is working on as far as taking the bow out of this piece. We're going to let it do its thing and not hassle it. I'm going to work up here completely away from it. Right, we're moving on to the next step here while this epoxy is setting up. And the next step is the little, what I'm calling the telephone insulators, for no better idea of what to call them than that. Ooh, I'm dealing with some splooged out epoxy here that's going to need to be cleaned up. Okay, we'll let that set. Anyway, what happens is that on the actual part right here, there are 6 insulators that come out, and they connect to the 6 insulators that are on the green console here, and they're color coded. They're red, they're yellow, and they're green, or greenish black. Red, yellow, and green primarily, because that seems to be the 3 main colors on this thing. You got red, yellow, and green up here. You got red, yellow, and green lights here. So red, yellow, and green seems to be the predominant color scheme. So we've got red, yellow, and green coily wires here. Now the kit comes with some wire that's already pre-colored, and they ask you to coil it up and bend it and make it fit and then stretch it out. See, this is the wire that I have coiled up. I basically just took a piece of brass tubing that was the right diameter and just wrapped it around it, and then what you do is you unspring it and stretch it out a little bit, sort of like that, and make it you make it run from point A to point B, which is fine. This is great stuff, but it does not take into account that I got big balls. It does not take into account the much larger ball that I've put here. And you don't get enough for both sides and that sort of stuff. I mean, it's good, it's just substandard. So I was thinking, scratching my head, going, geez, I really don't want to paint. I don't want to paint wire. That's madness. And I have enough madness in my life. I don't need to go begging for more. So I was, it took me 2 seconds to realize, well, that's telephone wire. I could use telephone wire for that. Now, this brings me to one of my favorite stories. I love telling this story. Many, many years ago, sit back, kids. Take a nice, tasty drink and a smoke if you got one. Many years ago, when I was working for a living for the state of North Carolina, one of our major projects for the year was always the State Fair exhibit. The exhibit that we would have at the State Fair to showcase agricultural products. I know this is riveting stuff so far, but it gets better, I tell you. Trust me, hang in there, it gets better. So one year we decided we were going to make a typical 1950s, 1940s Main Street, like a 40s, 50s Main Street. Something that was, post-war, but not quite into the 60s. So that wide range of area. A typical small-town North Carolina town, not unlike Mayberry. And in that street, we would have various shops set up. We would have a butcher shop. We would have a grocery store or a vegetable stand. We would have a bank. We would have a schoolhouse. We would have a smoke shop. We would have a soda shop, which would have been brand new. We would have a floral store. We would have a cotton goods store, dresses and bed sheets, things like that. And that way we could promote each of the many fine industries that North Carolina is known for producing. Well, the task fell on me to design this to design this street, and it was a big success. And it got a lot of attention, so much so that when George Herbert Walker Bush was running for re-election, this would have been the only time he ran for re-election. he stopped by along with the CBS Morning Show. They wanted to do a broadcast from our Main Street exhibit, and it was a high point. It's like, that's a pretty big deal when the CBS Morning News wants to broadcast from your state fair exhibit. So I was feeling really chuffed about that, and I got to kind of like stand backstage while this stuff was going on. Well, this was so long ago, kids, that they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have mobile phones of, you might, the rich people might have had bag phones in their cars type of thing, but this wasn't, cell phone technology just wasn't there. So knowing that George Herbert Walker Bush was coming to our exhibit, well, of course, they clear everything out. So Secret Service comes in and they do a sweep, and you don't get in anywhere near this place where he's going to be, because not only was he running for president, he was president at the time, so he had the full-on Secret Service. Well, they did a sweep of the whole building where the display was set up, and they got all their communications ready and all that. Everything went fine. They did a nice interview. Got some nice press on the display, and then they vanished. They're gone the next day, or within hours after he's done with his speech, and after CBS Morning News has wrapped. They're run out. There's like the carnival has left town, and you're left with a bunch of cleanup. Well, back in the days before they had cell phones, they put in like 4 or 5 phone lines just for the time that he was going to be there. That's part of what they ran up to do. And when they left a crap load of phone wire. And the manager of the state fair at the time said, "We got to clean all this stuff out. We're just going to, bin this stuff. We're going to can it." I was like, "Oh, no, you're not. I'm going to take all that wiring. Thank you very much." And so I came home with scads and scads of 4-strand phone wire. And wouldn't you know, the 4 strands of phone wire are red, yellow, green, and black. And when you take that phone wire and you coil it up, it looks just like that. So that is, long story short, the red, yellow, and black, or red, green, and yellow wiring is going to be the phone wire that I have left over from all those years ago. So thank you, George Herbert Walker Bush. Is about the only useful thing I ever got out of you. All right, slight change of plans. I'm going to not use the green ones, even though I believe, I've just been back and checked some more reference again. I believe that the center spiral is green, but it is such a deep dark green, sort of like this is, that at the width of the wire it reads as black. And no harm, no foul. I'll make them. The phone wire is 4-strand. The 4th strand is black, so I just went ahead and whipped up a black one to go in the center. Again, no harm, no foul. I still think it should be green, but because the green I have isn't dark enough, and it might as well be black, then I'm going to go ahead and make it black. So all I'm doing is taking a brass rod, winding the wire around it, push it all down, neaten up the wire, and then wrapping it some more. Push it down. Because this has a copper wire inside it, it's going to hold the shape. It's already got the plastic casing on it, so I'd be a fool not to use it and not try to have to paint that. It's just that the wire that comes with the kit, it's a little bit out of scale, plus with the larger ball that I'm using, I think this is more in keeping. I'm just measuring it, the coil here for length against the other ones that I've done. And once I've got one that is the right size, I trim that and slide it up, and there you go. There's another coil. They don't have to be surgically wound. They are keeping their shape just fine. Now, when it comes to the cones that are on here, there are 6 cones here. I went into my Greebly box and I found what I think is perfect, but not quite enough of. These are, looks like leftover Eagle thruster bells, engine bells from the 22-inch. It's part number 97, so I'm thinking they are probably Eagle bells. And they are quite perfect, or quite actually the perfect size. So what I'm going to do is, I've drilled a hole in the end of it. I'm going to stick the electrode through there, and then that'll mount to the side of the ball. So what I'm going to do now is glue these to the sides of the ball. Now the only downside is I only found 4, so I'm missing 2. So rather than tearing the whole house apart with the hopes of finding another 2 of those in the Greebly box somewhere, I've taken a couple of LEDs, flat-topped LEDs that are about the same size, and I took the legs off them, obviously, and I'm going to use those for the missing 2 electrodes. Now, because I am a stickler for symmetry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the center electrode on both sides. Come on, where's my hand? There you go. I'm going to replace the center electrode on both sides with these LEDs, and then use the cone-shaped ones for the front and the back. That way everybody's happy and everything is symmetrical. So let me get those guys glued in, because I need to paint this whole Magilla here. I need to paint that gold. When it comes time to do the brake light, the brake light is going to, you see this big old wire coming out? That's a problem. It's going to go out the side. It is going to go down the inside of this coil. Stop wiggling. Making my eyes go buggy this early in the morning. It's going to go in the inside of one of these coils and then feed into the bottom of the housing. Hopefully it'll be completely disguised and you'll never know it was there. So let me go on. This is continuing to set up another 20 minutes or so, and I'll take this off because it's really getting in my nerves. So let's put these the insulators down. I have removed the side clamps. This looks marvelous. It's holding everything straight and flush and true and all that. And I'm getting ready to close this up. Now I've got the little electrodes glued down. I want to close the top of the ball up, but I realized that before I do that, I need to put some grease in there. Everybody I've talked to has suggested lithium grease. I tried looking for some dilithium grease, but I couldn't find any. I figured if I'm going to make a time machine, something that's going to travel that fast, I want dilithium in it. But there was none to be had. So I picked up a tube of white lithium grease. All-purpose gear, and it's got gears right on the front of it, so I think I'm in good stead here. So I'm just going to put a little dab of this in here. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to start it up. To quote the Rolling Stones, I'm going to start me up, and then I'm going to put a little dab of the grease in it as it's going. They lied, it's not white at all. It is white, I just needed to shake it. There we go. Just get in there and mesh those gears. Maybe that'll quiet it down a bit. If nothing else, it'll help the axle spin inside the housing. Okay, so that having been done, come on, you can do it. Oh, I'm also at the slow speed. Okay, now we're ready to close this up, and I can put some gold paint on it. I can also put these guys on now. Alrighty, I've just painted this whole area up here gold. I am touching the end of the insulators, I guess they would be. Painting them to 3 colors here. Now I need to do the same thing below, and I just realized I forgot to paint the bottom ones red. Oh, I've also got these end caps epoxied on. I want to see how the the main big rail that goes around everything. I want to see how that works and reacts to everything before I decide whether I want to glue it on today, because I still need to get in where the decals go on the side of this, and if that big rail is going to be in the way, then that's going to make my life more difficult than it needs to be, and I'm not down with that, surprisingly. I also need to see if I want to put some sort of black banded detail right in there. I need to look at the reference again and see if that is a distinct different color or whether that whole stack is gold. Okay, we got a good news, bad news situation here. Good news is, well, the bad news is those sides are going to be hard to get to put the decals on, just because. So the good news is I can go ahead and put this frame on. The bad news is it's not going to be any easier to get to that. So the bad news is it's going to be tough to get in there and put those decals down. But the good news is the frame isn't going to make it any more difficult. So I can go ahead and epoxy this frame down, and by the time we finish with that, I can put the rest of these springy things in. But I want to show you something glorious here, friends. This is something glorious. There's a little bit of unevenness to the dish, but it's spinning. It's picking up speed now. Back down to stop. So yeah, good things happening. If I can get this rail glued in today and then get the rest of these springies in, then it's a question of putting tiny details down like that and these. The tiny details, like putting those little lenses over. And everything else is touch-up paint and decals. And that could be next week's work. But let me finish wiring up this last stoplight. That is the last thing that has to be wired up, and then I buried it inside the yellow coil. It's a sad fact that the main rail, the big rail along the top, it's got a bit of a bow to it. Without boiling in water and all that kind of stuff, I don't know of a way to really get rid of it. I've taped it down like this while everything is drying to see if I could get it to cure in place, but I can't swear that that's going to work. But it has a tendency to want to do that, and it needs to be straight. I thought of maybe taping it down and then hitting it with a heat gun. Maybe that would set it in place. But I think just leaving it like this for a while might take care of it. These two joints are very delicate, so I've got some epoxy sitting on them. I want those to cure. Got the springies in. Springies were at the same time the most fun and the also the most cumbersome things to work with. Now this is something I could have done, but I didn't do a left-handed and a right-handed winding on these. I suppose I could have, but I didn't. This side is all correct because of the winding. This side, they all kind of go in backwards, but I can live with it. I hope you can. And I can tease these out a little bit. This last one is kind of wild because that's where the wire for this thing is going. But the last thing to do, other than all of the touch-up painting, is to bring the chair in from the other room and then slap the dish on there just for giggles. It's still early in the afternoon. I've got another hour and a half yet before I usually stop to edit my videos. So we're gonna let all this cure in place until I really, want to end my day by taking that off and then put the chair in, put the wheel on, do one last spin test. But this is on now and dry. This is on now. There's some, like I said, touch-up painting in, but those are on. All of the decals and the detail painting on the rail needs to be done. Yeah, I may just try. I don't know how much good it'll do. Try doing a heat run with a heat gun over that and see if I could pull that back down into place. Okay, everything is together, and I can see that I'm going to have to do one more bit of bending. I'm going to have to try to heat this rod or this rail up and bend it down just a little bit because the wheel is rubbing on it. I can get it to start spinning, but if I let go of it, you can hear where it's rubbing. So I'm going to have to bend that down just a little bit. And that is the slow speed. Off, slow, and then fast. Yeah, I can see some bending. It's going to be a little bit of heat there, just bend it down. And back up to stop. Let me get these side pieces of tape off of here. Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's a heavy little thing. Yeah, actually taking the tape off of there, let that down a little bit. So I think we're going to be happy with that and let it go. But that's a pretty even spin. Down to off. Brake light comes back on. Okay, just a few touchy touches to do. The big thing is putting this decal right here. But I think I'm very happy with where we're landing. And I can't think of a happier conclusion than this for week 5 on the time machine build, the Sprueverse challenge time machine build. Way happy with how this turned out. Now, like I said, I've got a few days worth of detailing to do on this, but everything is in place. All the major components are in. We're spinning. We're happy. We're the right color. We're flocked. We're lit up. I don't think it gets much better than that. I can't stop playing with it. Does it make a little bit of noise? Why, yes it does. Thank you for asking. Down to stop. Well, that's it for this week. So next week we'll be finishing touches, and then we will put this away. I will film some beauty shots of it, and we will, next time you see this, will be at the big reveal from Wayne and from Phil's builds. Now I think that's going to be in a couple of weeks because Phil has some something come up that has going to push him back a couple of weeks before he can get his finished. So next time we'll be back. We'll be finishing this and starting something new. So until then, y'all be good, be safe, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. No, be good to yourself. We're into the dog days of summer, so take care of yourself. Don't overexert. Build a model, and come back next time.